You stream on YouTube. Okay, first I have to do this. And this. Good. Have to do this.
Okay, and I'm going to start recording.
I
Are you good, Maria?
almost. I have to just
Take your time.
do the YouTube, the Facebook part of it. Um, Can you give me a title?
I guess just SpacePants presentation or tube. Or you want to include the word tube in any
Hour of the Tube.
hour of the
Hour
tube?
of the Tube. Space.
Can you write that down for me, please? I don't want to misspell it.
I've got it.
Okay. Thanks, Serena.
Of course.
Okay, that is going to be the title. I love it.
Are we good to go?
Yes.
Wonderful. Welcome, Jennifer and Diana. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks for having us. Hi, everyone.
Hi. We're
Hi.
SpacePants.
Welcome to the power of the tube, also known as how aliens gave us the tools for creative success.
So we're going to start out our talk just by showing you a piece. This is one of our first collaborative composition projects. We arranged a piece by Garth Knox called Jonah and the Whale. But originally he wrote it for viola and tuba, and he gave us kind permission to arrange it for viola and mezzo-soprano singing into a tube.
We're just gonna part of this glorious piece. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go.
things are going to get serious.
In case it's not obvious, I'm Jonah and Jen is the whale.
I'd like to just mention two things. First, that first that this is at the California Institute for Abnormal Arts, which everyone was commenting on the stage. That's a real place. Yeah. There's a clown mummy there and some other really amazing things. And the and the other thing is that is Space Whale on the side of the stage. We'll introduce Space Whale later.
Yeah. And shout out to our friends Synchrony, which is a new music organization in Los Angeles, for hosting that concert and presenting us. They've been huge support of us. Also, Jen, great burp at the end of
that
Jonah.
Was real.
Thank you. Yeah. So when SpacePants formed, we knew there was no way we could have a traditional bio. Like how boring would that be for a group called SpacePants to be like, well, Jen is a singer and she studied at Manhattan School, and Diana is a violist and she studied places. That just did not make sense for us. So I just would like to tell you a story really quick. While Jen was singing and I was playing viola at a music festival in the woods of Vermont, we met, realized we shared a lifelong dream of wearing as many sparkles as possible, and ran joyfully out into the field to celebrate. Our enthusiasm attracted the attention of some pretty rad aliens who invited us to party and jam with them. As luck would have it, they were having a full-on sparkle party. Um, when we woke up the next day, groggy and disoriented, we discovered that the rad aliens had left us 3 parting gifts: a 25-foot long tube, a mission, and several pairs of space pants. The tube, of course, would become a central focus to our music making. The mission, which we accepted, is to wear space pants while bringing both our own and other earthbound beings' works of music, poetry, multimedia, storytelling, and art to life. Look, we don't know if we're doing crystals right, but we sure try. So we've kind of used, just knocked a plate. These 3 gifts that the aliens so generously bestowed upon us as pillars of our thought processes around what we're doing in SpacePants. So we see the tube is representative of our need for play within the group. That the SpacePants sort of reflect our self-reflection, and the mission is about our not only our internal collaboration, but collaboration with other amazing earthbound terrestrial beings.
So, I'd like to. Sorry, we're not going to laugh through this whole presentation.
Yeah,
we are. So I'd like to just introduce an idea right now that we've come up with to sort of describe a variety of aspects of our creative process. That's following the yes. So following the yes for us represents generative creativity. It's all about trying things, playing, doing whatever we want to do, and then following the things that make us feel light, excited, energized, moved. And that's no matter what they are. So we often come up with really crazy ideas, and we never say no to each other. We always try things with abandon, and then find what we love and move forward with that. It's an uncensored way of exploring together. And we'll come back to this idea in a variety of our concepts that we're going to present today.
So this is the tube. Got one right here. It's being a little difficult today. This is the tube. Tube is life. You too can own a tube. This is a flex drain 25-foot long tube. You can find it in your local hardware store. It's a drainage tube. You can find it on Amazon. I think right now it's about $18. So, it's a good bargain. It's a really good instrument. I myself have 3 tubes. Jen has a couple. There's tubes all over America now. We've been shipping them to people. A good friend of ours who's writing us an amazing piece, we've shipped him a tube so that he could, work with it. Just for the record, this photo, which I love, is 2 tubes connected together because these are drainage tubes. They're actually made to be able to, piece together into a much longer thing. And we were saying yes to each other in finding out whether or not if we swung the tube over our head, would we get the amazing sound that you can get in the smaller tubes. Unfortunately, we were not strong enough or couldn't generate enough force and speed to catch the air enough with these giant tubes. But you know, someday maybe we'll create a contraption that that can achieve that.
I'm writing
So if
that
anybody
down.
wants to build that for us,
Yeah.
we're not against it.
Yeah.
Something really important to us is creating the environment and the space within SpacePants to play. We touched on this a little bit in our masterclass, but the beauty of having this tube instrument is that Jen and I come to that as a beginner, both of us. We both have an instrument for which we are experts on it. For me, the viola, and for Jen, voice. But being able to come together on the same instrument as beginners frees us in so many ways. We don't feel bound by any sort of tube performance art practice. We're not like, well, my teacher told me to play the tube this way. There's none of that, and so that's been a really beautiful thing to come together on. Another way in which we explore playing within the group is we definitely spend a lot of time doing some arts and crafts. These pictures are from our last space camp time together, where we made some SpacePants vision boards. You know, like one does. But we love crafting things for ourselves. You know, like we made these sweet tinfoil hats. Let's see if mine will stay together while I put it on for a second. But we highly recommend at SpacePants concerts, including ours tomorrow, you may want a tinfoil hat. You know, it's just a fun thing to do. We've also had a tinfoil hat making station at our concerts before, which was amazing. Yeah, arts and crafts. It's just a fun way to explore our creativity and kind of open us up. Obviously, the most direct way this is manifested in our music is the use of improv, not only in our concerts but in our time together developing material. That's how we co-write, is a lot of improving and then sort of evaluating that. And we just wanted to share this is a short video of us doing an improv while performing a house concert hosted by our good friend Uri Koish in Miami, who's really fantastic, and you all should get to know his music. He's wonderful. This little improv and seeing this video turned into something we now have created into a repeatable piece, but was born out of improv. SpacePants is definitely the band we dreamed of as 10-year-olds. Now, obviously, between the two of us, we have more than enough degrees in music as well. And so it's modified by that or informed by that. But we really learned through this time developing our work that it's important to sort of identify what this, maybe it's you see it as an alter ego or something, but when we're creating from some version of ourselves or some particular personality. So we've really identified it for SpacePants as like this 10-year-old kid. I would love, like, if you guys have fun things you remember, like if you have a thing you were obsessed with doing when you were 10 years old, or some hilarious creative thing you were doing all the time when you were 10, I want to hear it. Please put it in the chat. I know Jen and I were just talking about it, and when I was 10, I was definitely making fake live music videos to Weird Al songs and like trying to get my teacher to make the whole class sit and watch us, act out a Weird Al song um, during recess. And Jen, I forget what you were talking
I was definitely charging, I remember, a quarter to come to ballet and puppet shows. We had like a whole theater set up. So when you see our concert on Friday, you'll understand that that's a continuation.
Yeah. But also, if anybody has like an alter ego, or like almost like a different place they write from, like if that's something you want to share, like we want to hear about it. But it's just really interesting to think about, who are you when you're writing? Are you right now, or are you some idealized version of yourself? Or like, what are your motivations? Where's your head at? It's just another access point for thinking about how you're creating, is what voice are you actually embodying when you're creating something and writing something. And if anybody wants to share that, Jen, I don't know if anything's happening.
Yeah, I'll just share a little. There's here Final Fantasy, constantly jumping and baking cupcakes.
Yes.
Creating characters and drawing and writing about them.
Yeah.
Ooh, this one, there's somebody had a character called Billy the Magic Hobo that they wrote full chapters about. Semi-improvised nonsense plays for as many family members as we could convince to watch. Exactly. We're all...
Yes, especially that, this make-believe and stuff. It's so important. And when we can tap back into that childhood creativity, it's sort of this unending, renewable source of creative energy. I think that's something that especially in a time like this, where that's been a recurring theme throughout, the morning presentations and everything, people talking about it's been hard to create right now. Absolutely. But getting ready for this festival, I think, especially when Jen and I started making the videos for our concert for tomorrow, when we were able to start getting back into that like 10-year-old brain and like thinking about what would tickle us at that age, it was just like this spring of creative energy. And so maybe that's something that could be useful to you all as you're navigating now, or whenever, really.
So the next... I have a rubber chicken. The next thing that we'd like to talk about is funny. So a lot of what we do, and not everything... Thanks, Serena. Serena says I gave a great segue.
It's a really good segue.
Also, I have to just take a moment. The chat function in this is so much fun.
Okay, let me see if I can't even see the chat right now because I'm running the stupid presentation. It's not stupid. Let me see if I can open it because
It's just great. Like, please keep pouring things into the chat because we never.
Do you now see the chat window on the screen?
I see like a box that.
Okay, I'm getting rid of it. I'm sorry, everybody. I can't see the chat, but I love you all and keep.
I'll try to share the important things from the chat. Speaking of the chat, I'm gonna talk a little bit about humor and how we deal with it. And in the meantime, I would love to hear from all of you. What is your favorite funny piece of music? It doesn't have to be classical. It's not always easy to find them. But whatever you think of that really cracks you up. I'd love to see a list of those things. And I'll come back to that. So the kind of humor that we use is mostly nonverbal humor, slapstick clowning humor. There are a lot of different ways to be funny on stage. There are, really clever word plays. There are, all sorts of ways to sort of set up an expectation and then destroy it. but mostly what we're doing is humor that requires timing and complete dedication. So whenever we do something funny, we take it very, very seriously, and we practice it a lot. We practice transitions, and we practice being extremely communicative with each other so that we can be very in tune with each other and catch each other when someone does something funny, that you can grab it. It's an improv thing for one thing. So I just want to go through this list really quick. A really important thing is that successful humor doesn't take anyone else down with it. So we're talking about generative humor. We're talking about surprises. We're talking about drawing connections between things that we wouldn't normally draw connections between, such as classical music and a drainage tube. Humor is a really great way to diffuse tension, and that doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be a really positive thing. Everyone can relax. Absurdity, body functions humor. I mean, like farting and burping. I learned to burp in tune, so I offer that on my list of extended techniques as a singer, that if you would like to write for me to burp in tune, you can, within a certain range, you can do that. And the other thing that the other function that humor serves in a larger scale presentation or concert is that you can set up something really serious or something really moving or sad with something funny. So it's really fantastic to get everyone laughing, make them feel open and relaxed, and then you drop something really serious, something really moving, something emotional on them. And those are two ends of an emotional spectrum. So humor makes the space for us to feel sadness, and really feeling sadness makes the space for us to feel humor. So, especially during these particular times where we're all really struggling to maintain our mental health, we're struggling to maintain our personal connections, we're trying to figure out what on earth we are supposed to be doing with our art. Humor is important right now. And what I'm talking about is the kind of humor that allows people to release for a moment, to free themselves from all of their stories, to create new connections between things that have nothing to do with words. And as a singer and as a poet, it's words have been incredibly important in my life, but I also acknowledge that they really pull us into emotional spaces quickly. And so for SpacePants, doing a lot of exploration of nonverbal humor and deadpan and slapstick has been really freeing for me. And the other really important point I want to make is that googly eyes are always funny. You just really can't go wrong with that. So we'd love to show you, in the end of our talk, we're going to show you a tube tutorial, which is the first ever instructional video. I have to stop for a minute because in the windows that I'm seeing, like, people have got, there are like puppets and like little stuffed animals.
Man,
it's amazing.
Awesome. Oh, you guys are so, I love you all. This has been
so great.
It's such a great community.
And, because this is
Hello.
I'm also, yay. I'm also looking at, and I know not everyone that's watching our talk can see the windows in the chat and stuff, but I would really like, we have now an incredible list of funny stuff, funny music that we will take and put together. Thanks for your contributions. So the last part of this that I'd like to show you is we created a tube tutorial, which is the first instructional video on how to write for the tube. And case in point, as we were creating it, we really were choosing a sort of deadpan delivery, and it's hard to maintain that. So we made an outtakes video where we were failing miserably.
Yeah, it was easier for me to cut together the outtake, or like I felt the need to create the outtakes video before I even edited the final version of our tutorial. This was such a must-have in my opinion.
Video.
That's Space Whale.
Okay.
So, we've just been silly and weird and free and open and all of these things on stage. And the next day, I have to say, I literally will feel like I've been hit by a truck. And it has been a learning curve for both of us, I think, to figure out how to take care of ourselves. Being vulnerable on stage is risky. Being funny is risky. Premiering your own music, improvising is risky and requires aftercare. And being that you all are being so amazing in the chat, like please talk about and share like what are your favorite sort of self-care kinds of things. Like I just listed a few that are sort of obvious to me. Even though I love being loud and ridiculous at concerts and like the after hang, it usually needs to be balanced out for me with a lot of quiet time and alone time, extra sleep. I'm pretty sure there are special nutrients in French fries and milkshakes that help with recovery. You can,
Yes.
we're we're space doctors or something, so I'm pretty sure you can take our word for that. Netflix binging or whatever streaming service of your choice. Um, we're both big bath lovers. Walking, journaling, all of this stuff is just so, I mean, it's so important in general right now, but I think taking this into consideration also if you're in a situation where you're going to be performing a bunch of times in a row or you're going to have a couple big projects, maybe some premieres back to back, um, making sure you're building in the space to take care of yourself after this is just so important. And I don't think it's talked about enough. And so we just want to again create the space to talk about it and acknowledge that this is so important. Sort of another part to this is thinking about what what is required for Jen and I to be so vulnerable, not only on stage but with each other, and that is that we have a huge amount of trust for each other that's been built over the past years and also has been built through really open communication. Um, we we both are very self-reflective people, and so we're just really open about how we're interpreting things after we experiencing them. We also love sort of sharing semi-related experiences to our SpacePants work. So we love going to an art museum together when we're in the same city. For those of you who haven't heard, like Jen lives in Raleigh and I live in Los Angeles. So we also don't get a ton of time together. So when we're on stage together, that real-time communication and that real-time decision making is so important because we don't get to rehearse 5 hours a day every day together, which when I was in a string quartet I was doing, and that's a whole different discussion. But um, getting to do real time, like being able to be in the moment with each other, requires so much love and openness and trust. And yeah, Jen, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah,
Some clearly cool things are happening in the chat that I can't see.
I know. Well, I'm just going to sum up the chat. We have, meditation, which is something that's been really helping me a lot of late. Long walks and quiet, and then spicy tuna rolls and tacos.
Ooh, spicy tuna rolls.
That's like right on. And then some also like, chill, zone out brain video games.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, and also, in terms of this, seeking, a little bit of a hang with a person who is completely unrelated to for example, your business, like, hanging out with somebody that's just kind of like doesn't even know what it's like to be on stage is sort of helpful too, in the sense that you just move away from that seriousness that all really starts to come down. Taco Tuesdays and tuna roll Thursdays. Yeah. Yeah,
I
getting out of whatever space was feeling stressful for you. That's right. And that's tough for us right now, right? We're all like in our houses. It's been
Yeah.
really odd because I honestly cannot tell right now whether or not I'm stressed out. It's very strange. Just because we're in our home environments and we don't have the same kind of external and internal cues. So all of this stuff going on walks, if you can, doing all kinds of um, really good self care, I think is really important for this time, regardless of performing or no.
Yeah. Also,
McDonald's, that's a Space
oh yeah.
Pants favorite too. So.
Yeah. And for both of us, a big shout out to, and Jen, if you want to put in the chat, we've both been attending
Yes,
virtually in the astral plane.
the best.
Amazing sound baths on Monday nights through Seattle Sound Temple. Um,
Oh,
Irene Ingalls is just a magical being, and she has just been so inspiring to us. And also having this, to be honest, having a weekly set thing that I'm looking forward to. Oh, it's Sound Bath Day, and I get to really chill out and go to another place. I generally start seeing myself in a space yurt while I'm listening to these sound baths, and
yeah.
it's pretty cool. I have to say, it's pretty cool.
So I'll just give you a little, since we're talking about this, and it's actually
Yeah.
really been really important to us. A sound
Yeah.
bath, in this context, at the Seattle Sound Temple, they have a giant collection of crystal singing bowls, and they have a huge gong, and so it's a whole bunch of different single tone, like mega ringing, incredible stuff, and they play them in all different, and you hear a lot of overtones. And the thing that's been really one of the things that's been really important for me about these sound baths is that as soon as we all stopped being able to perform live, I stopped being able to feel like my body was being vibrated by live music, which is sort of the whole reason I'm here. And it happens with the sound bath. Even when you just have headphones in, you get this sense of actually being in the room in a way that I haven't found anywhere else besides there was this Yo-Yo Ma. I don't know if anyone saw the Yo-Yo Ma live broadcast a few weeks ago. That was
Of
good.
all the cello suites, yeah.
Of all the Bach cello suites, that one made me feel like I was there. And then, yeah, the sound bath. Other than that, I haven't been feeling as connected to the sound world that we're living in, and so this is a really great thing for us.
Yeah. So the second gift that the aliens bestowed upon us were obviously the space pants. I just want to be really clear that my leggings have a unicorn and a T-Rex robot fighting each other. I just want to be really clear about what that is. Also, that clearly we both love vocal fry. um, so we often get the question of how did Space Pants become the name Space Pants? Obviously, getting the pants helped. But we let ourselves take the time to kind of let the name find us. We really wanted to pick a name that stood out, that that made you want to know more. And some of the other names we had considered were Hollow Log, which I think was sort of winning out at the time when we took this photo. Also, Sing Saw with Jen and Diana. One of our friends who might be watching this talk right now also tried to get us to name ourselves Shimiola.
Nope.
No.
That's a hard no.
That was a hard no. But we really wanted to take our time and make sure we found the name that made sense to us. And it's really interesting now thinking about these other names that we considered, and actually there was a point where we generated a list of something like 100 names. Now, some of them were definitely like Shimila names that we were never really going to use. There are definitely some that we would never be willing to even share publicly because they were obscene or something. But um, it's really interesting to think about what we became because of our name, and the mythology that we've been able to cultivate and the culture we've been able to cultivate because of the name SpacePants, that obviously would have not been so obvious or wouldn't have happened if we'd been named, for example, Hollow Log. Which I'm like, now I'm like kind of horrified.
I love it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, but also shout out to the Redwoods and being up. This photo's from being up near Sea Ranch, California, where Jen's parents have a house. That's just one of the most special places for space camp creativity time, and those trees are amazing and provide us with a lot of, I don't know, peace and knowledge and things.
So, part of the reason that we bring SpacePants and the name up right now is because some of the work that we do is very play-oriented, creative, generative, unplanned, improvisational. And then the second step is to see what we did. And so, for example, we were wearing SpacePants and performing on stage in SpacePants for a long time before we were like, wait a minute, shouldn't our name be SpacePants?
Right.
Which was, so essentially it was like, and I see a question in the chat, could you say that the name chose you rather than the other way around? And it's absolutely true. And that feels like our creative process in general with SpacePants. So also, Diana and I both have scientific families and backgrounds. And so we're really enjoying thinking about our process a bit as like the scientific method. So we do something, or we're, wouldn't it be funny if we did X? And we try it out and we really go for it, no matter what it is. Any idea is taken as a brilliant idea and we go all the way with it. And then we often record ourselves. Because the experience of doing something, especially something really weird or silly or improvisational when you're inside your own head, is different than what someone else sees. And so in order to move away from our own inner monologues or dialogues and towards actually finding things that work, that feel fresh and new, we record ourselves. We experiment. We even have amazing places like Uriah's Porch where we've been able to perform improvisation in public. And by the way, the piece that we showed before, as dealt with by this exact process, we improvise, we go back, we watch the videos, and we're like, we're going to make a piece called Chant and Fry from this. And so, because there was a lot of chanting, a lot of frying, and so Chant and Fry then becomes a piece that we now have as a notated referential score for ourselves, where it's a structured improvisation. We know where we're coming from, where we're going to, and we can program it in a concert. We know about how long it's going to be, and we know sort of the mood and the vibe, so that we often use our own improvisations as transitions between pieces that are notated, sort of Western music style. And they really make, all of these improvisations have become pieces. So it's a lot about self-reflection. It's a lot about self-discovery. It's a lot of self-investigation. It's also, as we talked about before, maintaining and developing great mental health practices where when you discover something about yourself, you are kind to yourself about it. And we're incredibly kind with each other about taking risks. And, even when we're on stage and something goes horribly wrong, and it has, because, you see what we're doing.
Wait. We have to, wait. So we hosted a prom in December for our friends at Synchrony. That was like a fundraiser for this organization. And so it was Dance of the SpacePants Fairies, which was amazing. It was so cool. And we were just sort of like providing mood and energy and fun. And like There was some point where we got up and did something on stage. I don't remember exactly what happened.
Were definitely wearing tutus.
We were wearing tutus. That photo from, wait, I'll just go back for a second. This is us at prom. And, you know, something happened. Also, just note that the tube is wearing a tutu on Jed. The tube in front of Jed is wearing a tutu. So, something happens and we're so horrified. We both sort of run off to either side of the stage. And I still was holding on to the tube. And so I spent like something like 2 or 3 minutes very slowly pulling the tube off of the stage. And that became hilarious to us, but we had felt like we had completely just bombed something, which now I can't even remember what it was. But
some improvisation, but
still
like,
improv.
what the thing that saved that moment, I mean, maybe not for us the next day we were like, what happened? But I think the thing that probably saved that moment for the people that were watching was that Diana was just like, I am gonna commit to slowly pulling the tube off the stage for like 3 minutes. And so, you know, when we're in these spaces where we know we're safe, then we commit no matter what, and we go all the way, and it's the only way to really do it. So what we're going to do now is show you another part of that same concert from the California Institute for Abnormal Arts, where we're presenting our sorry, I'm not going to laugh. This is a very serious piece that we wrote called Buttgate. It's just another structured improvisation. And we used it as a transition into, like we said, another notated piece called Her Disappearance, which is a really fantastic piece by Bethany Young and Kaylee Butcher. And it's, as you can see, we're going to be on PVC pipes, so we're trading the big tube for smaller tubes. But Buttgate is to the same tempo basically as Stayin' Alive. So we like to open a concert with that so people feel like they're really in the dance groove.
Yeah. Note tinfoil hats in the audience. should check out that whole piece on YouTube. If you look up Her Disappearance, it's on Score Follower. And so it's a really interesting score, and highly recommend checking it out with the score to see how Bethany chose to notate that.
So the third part, our third gift, is our mission. Our mission to collaborate, create, and share pieces of other earthbound beings as well as our own. And so SpacePants has been a really incredible and freeing space for both of us to try out our compositional and improvisational styles and really develop a new voice. But it's also an important thing, and we're very excited to be collaborating with others. And the first piece that was written for SpacePants by someone other than ourselves was by Paula Mathewson. And this piece is called Mysteries Yes, and it's for voice, viola, wine glass, and fixed media. The text is from the Harmonia Mundi. It's a treatise on sacred harmonies from a long, long time ago. And lest you think we do all funny stuff, this piece is very grounded and beautiful and serious. And we really love to use this piece at a point in the program when we've kind of released everyone from their, attending a classical music concert feeling of seriousness. We do lots of silly stuff, and then we really love to bring this piece in, which is just gorgeous. It does not include the tube. The tube does not feel left out. The tube merely enjoys the sounds of worship in this piece.
Yeah, the tube gets to take a little break because they're put through a lot of work in a show, so we have to respect that. Okay, let me get to the, I believe here was good.
So we are so incredibly lucky to have this gorgeous piece written for us by Paula Mathewson. And I just wanted to point out something for the composers here that is really amazing and effective technique that Paula used, and that is that for most of the piece, Diana and I are in unison. And since it's kind of a non-traditional duo of a mezzo-soprano and a viola, but actually mezzo-soprano and viola have a lot of timbre relationship that they can really take advantage of, and so this piece allows us to just drive right into that. And you know, we'll make sure that you have a link so that you can see the whole thing if you like. Another collaboration we'd just like to mention that's upcoming. Our next collaboration is with the composer Ryan McMasters from Pittsburgh, and we'll be creating together with him a space odyssey from a Gaelic myth called Correc. So it's going to be kind of an epic. We don't know what yet. And
I get to be an astromancer.
Exactly. And I a space hag. And there's something about a vacuum, which is I think why the whole thing
I think the tube
arose.
is a black hole, which makes sense.
Yeah. So that's all we're going to say about that for now, but keep your eyes out.
Yeah. We're very excited, and hi Ryan if you're watching, because I think you might be.
So the next thing we want to talk about is the concept of enthusiasm, which has been probably the most important thing that we've really both leaned into, that has just given us so much back. Both Dinah and I are sort of naturally enthusiastic personalities, and I think that we've both found in the classical music world, we were talking about this earlier, that, you know, both of us would show up to gigs and be like so excited to be there and so excited to make music with other people, and you know, people are kind of just like, dude.
Yeah, dude, chill out. Why are you so excited?
So this has been a really fun space to discover that we both have this really rollicking enthusiasm, and we've used it to be a sort of central theme in our creating and in our interacting with other people. So I'm not going to have you take my word for it. I'm going to read you a little bit of the 16th hexagram in the I Ching is enthusiasm. I'm just going to read you a little bit of what this card says in translation. Enormous creative energy is unleashed by enthusiasm. This energy is like powerful music that inspires great numbers of people, loosening old constraints and sprouting new opportunities. The power of enthusiasm is best symbolized by music and dance. It is guided more by the heart than the head. Great good fortune can follow when the leader of an enthusiastic group is a person of strong character, one who is able to guide this positive force toward a favorable destination. Enthusiasm in a personal relationship or in a group generates a special kind of electricity. When the crowd at a music festival is charged up, the singers scale new heights, and life becomes its own reward. Who is not in awe of thunder? And who would fail to fill his or her lungs in the aftermath of a cleansing rain? To arouse others, redouble your dedication and dare to create an environment that is free of tension. Take joy in your work. In your own way, harness the power of song and dance. So that's some mega ancient wisdom that I think we can all lean into. One of the examples that we're going to show you in a minute is during many of our concerts, we teach the audience this piece called The Mansplaining Canon by Kareth Livengood, who's a brilliant composer, and she was actually at Charlotte New Music Festival last year. Bayo String Quartet played her piece, This Is My Scary Robot Voice, which is an amazing string quartet that Diana actually premiered. So we're gonna have you all. We're gonna show this video, but this is a video of us teaching this round. And so if we were all together in person, we would be doing this in the room. But since we're all on Zoom, we're gonna have you learn with us and sing with us. Before that, I just want to call your attention to the idea that when you are enthusiastic, when one is really enthusiastic, and that means, and right down here at the bottom, unbridled enthusiasm, when it really comes from a place of openness and honesty and just freedom, other people get excited. So For example, we always receive pictures of tubes from people, and
So awesome.
and huge numbers of suggestions of titles of pieces. What were the two?
Oh yeah,
today?
my friend Brandon literally texted me 2 title options today. It Takes Tube and Just the Tube of Us,
Yeah.
which we will, those pieces will be forthcoming, obviously.
We've received unsolicited sock puppets. We've received amazing pieces about the space whale. You saw the sparkly space whale on stage there. Diana's showing the space whale right now. And if you look on this slide, our friend Andy Houston created this alien abduction insurance brochure. This was unasked for by us. This just showed up at the prom that we were doing. It's brilliant. So not only did he create this, he spent time researching actually alien abduction insurance brochures, which are a thing. You might want to go check it out. I see here in the chat that it says dolphins are interstellar as well. We'll make sure that we include dolphins in our stuff. Thank you. But so this brochure.
Thanks for all the fish in the words
Yeah.
of Hitchhiker's Guide. Yeah.
But this brochure is just kind of an example of the delightful, creative enthusiasm that other people have been just sort of showing up with as we do this stuff. And so we're super thankful for everyone that has been so collaborative with us and so supportive. And we're just really feel like the more that we allow ourselves to be silly and free and really dedicated to what we're doing, the more that other people show up and want to get involved, and it is so much fun. Okay, so here comes the
Canon time.
Yeah, are you all
All
ready?
right, so everybody, I hope will sing along at home. I would say unmute yourselves, but I think it'll be so
pretend
cacophonous.
like we can hear you.
Yeah, but we know you are, and thank you. Okay, great.
Okay, we need your help. The next piece is called The Mansplaining Canon. And like you're at camp, and you're singing around, we want you to help us. So we're going to teach it to you, and then we're going to split you into 2 parts. We're all going to sing The Mansplaining Canon.
You all have to sing. I'll see you if you're not.
We'll see you.
We'll come out there.
I need a pitch.
I'd like to point out that people are willing to do this with us now because we've
So I'm
been
going to
so
sing,
silly.
and then you sing back. We'll teach it to you. Ready?
Yeah, this is well into the
Actually, you probably don't know that. Your turn. Actually, you probably don't know that. Awesome. Next line. You probably haven't heard that. You probably haven't heard that. Okay, so the whole first line. Actually, you probably don't know that. You probably haven't heard that. One more time. Actually, you probably don't know that. You probably haven't heard that. My turn. Let me help you do that. Let me help you do that better. Your turn. Let me help you do that. Let me help you do that better. Again. Let me help you do that. Let me help you do that better. Okay, the whole thing. We'll do it, then you do it. Actually, you probably don't know that. You probably haven't heard that. Let me help you do that. Let me help you do that better. Actually, you probably don't know that. You probably haven't heard that. Let me help you do that. Let me help you do that better. Awesome. This side of the room is part 1.
Ready, everyone?
Ready? If you want to, when you say actually, use a finger, that'd be great. Okay?
So we're gonna come in.
For you. Can I do this for you? I might be able to help.
Wait, are you guys gonna go first or are we gonna go first?
We'll go first.
Okay, cool. So you guys pay attention.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, ready. Actually, you probably don't know that. You probably haven't heard that. Let me help you do that. Let me help you do that better. Actually, do that better. You probably don't know that. You probably haven't heard that. Let me help you do that. Let me help you do that better. Actually, do that better. You probably don't know that. You probably haven't heard that. Let me help you do that. Let me help. One more time. Actually, you probably don't know that. You probably haven't heard that. Let me help you do that. Let me help you do that better. Let me help you do that better. That was amazing. Thank you very much, everyone.
We also can share later or something, send out the music to that, because Kareth, like, I've posted about it on Twitter before, and Kareth posted the music. So
Also, there's if you just go on YouTube, you can search the Mansplaining Canon, and there's a video of us doing it that you can sing along to.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to mention in terms of enthusiasm is something that came up yesterday when we were actually on talking on a career panel. And this is more of a question for everyone than a, advice or anything like that. But I'd really love to. So again, maybe we can engage the chat. But also all of us as musicians, as artists, as people, I'd love to start thinking about this. And we're in sort of a new world context right now. So we have this friend, Conrad Freiberg, who's an incredible visual artist, musician, all sorts of poet, etc.
We call him Space Lens.
Yeah. He's Space Lens. He's one of the auxiliary members of SpacePants. And his concept is that as an artist, you spend 60% of your time creating opportunities for other people and 40% of the time creating opportunities for yourself. We can also think about that in terms of promoting other people's work and, also in terms of collaboration and raising other people's work up. And that's been something that has been able to be done in the world when we're allowed to do live concerts. You can start a live concert series, or you can create. But I think in terms of also enthusiasm, showing a huge amount of enthusiasm for someone else's work is good for their mental health. So if you do find something that you feel incredibly enthusiastic about, let them know, let that artist know, and share it with others. And you don't have to be on Facebook, or on social media at all necessarily doing that work. There's lots of other ways. And here's where I want to just kind of utilize the chat and solicit some ideas. What other ways besides being on social media, which is a great way, you can really share other people's work and show things. What other ways at the moment can we think of to be really being enthusiastic, showing enthusiasm, and sharing and creating space for other people's work? Right now, for example, we are at the Charlotte New Music Festival, and the Charlotte New Music Festival has created a space for all of us to experiment, to create new genres of stuff since we're online. And for Diana and I, it's been a huge opening experience. If you come to our concert tomorrow at 1:00, you'll see that we have created kind of a new video presentation vibe style that includes a lot of sequins and sock puppets and all sorts of stuff. And this has been one of the best things for my personal mental health, is being able to focus in on this festival, to get excited about other people's work, to get really involved in making the best piece that I can make for someone else. And so, this can be a longer term question, but how are we going to do this for each other? How are we going to continue to spend 60% of our time creating opportunities for others when we're in this sort of new digital environment? I see on the chat that says share donuts. And I think that's really great. Diana and I have spent a lot of time sharing donuts across the country this week.
Like, I don't want to tell you how many donuts I ate.
No, so many. Yeah.
Personal. It's a personal.
Exactly. I see someone says I send fan emails to my favorite ensembles. That's
That's awesome.
awesome.
That's
We
so
love
cool.
that.
Yeah.
And everybody, no matter how well known they are, for example, as an artist, loves to hear from someone who genuinely feels enthusiasm about their
Yes.
work.
Yeah.
And it's also, in that way, a great way to find good collaborations because when you feel really enthusiastic about someone else's work, that's sort of a pure way of being drawn to someone else's stuff, and so that can really drive new collaborations, new ideas. So when you feel enthusiasm, show it. We
Yeah,
charge you.
don't be ashamed of your enthusiasm.
This is cool. Online content creators can make features of other artists' work
Yeah,
with their consent, of course.
that's right.
Let's see. If people could submit random segments, however musical or bizarre, and put into a bunch of miniatures. Absolutely. Online blogs, zines,
Yeah.
writing about work that interests you.
Hmm.
Writing is a really important thing right now, right? Zines, another for zines.
Yeah, and just any like along those lines, even you find a piece by some composer that you love, maybe you know somebody who plays the instrument that the piece is for, and you just, hey, have you heard this piece? This is amazing. That kind of, just person
Yeah.
to person enthusiasm and sharing. Um, I, I
Yeah.
I already do that for other I've been talking to Jen about I've been reading these Ted Chiang short stories this week and I've been obsessed with them, and everybody I talk to I'm like, "Have you read these short stories? Read these short stories." But there's no reason you can't. I get a little obnoxious about it sometimes, but there's no reason we can't be doing that for our friends' work or people whose work we don't know. If it's publicly available, if there's a video on YouTube or the composer's website or something where you can share it in a way that's respectful of the work, and let people know about it when you think something's great. Or if you're in a position to be programming or anything like that, whether it's digitally programming right now or in the future programming concerts, like, championing other people's work, is such a wonderful thing to get to do.
Diana, can you tell us again who wrote those short stories? We have a request.
Oh, Ted Chiang. It's Chiang. Collection of stories I'm reading is called Exhalation. The other set of stories he wrote, gosh, I forget what it's called, but actually his one of his short stories was the basis of the movie Arrival, which is sort of his claim, sort of the thing that made him a little more famous. But his writing is really beautiful and really interesting, and I super highly recommend it. So,
Also, here I see handwritten letters and postcards to musicians that you appreciate.
oh,
Right?
that's amazing.
Don't forget about the mail. And
Yeah.
it's so much fun to get mail. Um,
I got a letter from the aliens.
that's right.
Wait, do I have one of them? Let me see if I.
Sometimes the aliens who gave us the
Yeah.
tube and the SpacePants and stuff email us or write us letters,
Right.
which is pretty amazing.
I have an envelope, but not the.
But also, personalized recommendations in any which way that you can share them is just super important. So, okay, great. I love all those ideas, and let's keep thinking of more and more. And the last thing I just want to say again, I see in the chat, that's important to hear. Don't be ashamed of enthusiasm. And it really, just go with it. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad if you're the person that's like, I love this, because that is the most honest reaction, and it gets other people excited whether or not they seem embarrassed by your behavior or not.
Yeah.
Ultimately, everyone wins if you're willing to unleash your own enthusiasm.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of something maybe I meant to say back when we were talking about, cultivating trust in things, and if you're in a situation where you feel like in a collaborative situation, let's say in an ensemble or whatever, and you feel that by being yourself and by being enthusiastic or by being the true to yourself, and you don't feel like that's safe to do that, that's a situation you need to get out of or have a discussion about how can that change. I think for a lot of us, we learned that all the hard way. I've certainly been in groups where I was afraid to make mistakes, and I found my playing suffering greatly for it. And it was something that I didn't really realize was happening until I was out of the situation. So just, these are all things to look for also. So following in our idea of following the yes, that we're like looking for the positive in the generative situations, and so just to be aware of the counter of that, and to keep ourselves in these positive situations and safe situations, and yeah, that's I'm done.
Yay.
Yeah, okay, great. I love you all. So now we're getting to the moment we've all been waiting for. When we found out that we were gonna get to be a part of CNMF, which we were so excited about, we realized, oh, people might be writing for the Tube for the first time, other than ourselves writing for the Tube, and so we were like, well, we should probably make some sort of video or something explaining how we do that. And then almost immediately I was like, we need turtlenecks, we need nerd glasses, and we need to like, I don't know, Jen and I were just like, yeah, we have to make a weird video, because I mean, we're SpacePants, we have to be true to ourselves. And so we would like to share with you what we created. And we have to say we were so impressed and so touched by what the composers here at CNMF wrote for us. And again, by us creating something hopefully for you guys that was helpful, you then created something back to us that was so we just like noticed the thought and the care and enthusiasm given back towards us in those pieces. And yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say about that. Let's all enjoy the tutorial.
Hi, we're SpacePants, and this is Writing for the Tube with SpacePants. This is the tube. Tube is life. These are some sounds we make on the tube. You can expand and contract the tube. You can scrape the tube with your nails. Or with the side of your finger. You can scrape the tube against itself. Or drop it on the floor. Cool. Great. You can hit the tube. You can use other objects with the tube, like a comb, or a metal spring.
Sometimes we drop a microphone into the tube. And sometimes we add a delay. You can fully expand the tube. You can contract the tube. Probably the best video of all time.
Finally, I get to see everybody's faces.
Ooh, the chat says Oscar nomination. Thanks.
Oh, we love you so much. So I think at this point we have talked a lot. I don't know, Jen, have any questions popped up while we've been talking, or does anybody have any questions? We'd love to.
I'll address one quickly because it's going to get answered tomorrow in our concert. By the way, just plug our concert real quick. 1 p.m. tomorrow.
1 p.m. tomorrow.
And one of the questions someone asked was, do you tune the tube? And in our concert tomorrow, we'll be playing a piece called Prelude in Tube. And there is a part where we do actually tune the tube. It likes an E flat. For example. So you'll see that tomorrow. And the other thing is, in terms of questions, we've really only addressed compositional stuff for the tube, but Diana and I are both experts at me composing for the voice and Diana composing for viola. So also, if you have questions either now or at a later time, we can also answer those because we've both worked a lot with composers and can give you a lot of good info. Yeah. So questions?
Can we speak?
Yeah.
Type? Okay, cool. I had to speak to say that, so I had to violate a rule anyway. But what would you say is like as a mezzo soprano, what would you say is the biggest thing that when you see a piece by a composer and it's a dead giveaway of like, oh, you just think I'm a lady singer and can sing a high A. Like
Yeah.
how could we best utilize a mezzo soprano's talents?
First of all, talk to the person, the mezzo soprano. My mezzo soprano voice is, I actually started out as a soprano, which I am not, and that was not a fun life for me. So when you give me a piece that has lots of high soprano notes, it makes me feel like I'm flashing back to my school days. Um, no, but the main thing is to talk to the person. So my voice is a mezzo soprano voice with a really kind of contralto extension. I have an easy time going down to about a low E flat, and full voice down to a low F. So for me, I love it when people will climax their piece down. You heard Paula using that part of my voice earlier extremely effectively. I think that was a low F in that piece, the lowest note. And so that's one thing is actually realizing that a voice that blooms down low you can use that as more climactic or really effective color choice. Another thing as a mezzo soprano is finding out where the mezzo soprano's kind of main break is in the center of their voice. Unlike sopranos, we're often negotiating significantly more between the chest voice, between the big lower voice and the head voice. Many sopranos spend most of their time in their head voice, and what happens is that transition is a huge muscular transition, and so to be driving around across it all the time is really tough. And so just understanding that person's voice and how much negotiation they have to make. It depends on a lot of things, how heavy the voice is, where the voice breaks. And the other thing is that high notes are great, but it's how you get to them. So for a mezzo, I don't want to be approaching my high voice through sitting in my passaggio. So I don't want to go to a high G after I've sung 10 high Fs. It's basically like as though I were trying to lift a giant truck up to the top of a mountain with little assistance. And so the third thing I'll say about that, it's a great question and I could go on for 5 hours, but is that a voice, and this is true for soprano, alto, tenor, baritone, bass, it has its own range that it works within. And so, for example, on an F sharp, I'm making a big, loud, blooming sound, whereas, say an F sharp 5, whereas a soprano, that's kind of a nice, easy transition note, or it's a passaggio. So, but for me, like that sounds like what maybe a soprano, vibe-wise would sound like on, say, like a B flat. And so it's understanding the voice you're working with and that the bloom in the voice can happen, and you can't really tell what pitch the person's on. It's actually where in that instrument they bloom. Okay, so anyway, if you guys have more questions about that, like,
Thank you.
hit me up.
I'll also just like along those lines encourage composers when you're writing for viola to use our C string. There's so much new music I play where I'm just like, I mean, I'm happy to play high. My viola does sound good up there, but we like playing stuff that makes us sound like a viola.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I don't want to do extended techniques and things, and like I love playing Lackaman and all these other things, but actually I think this morning we touched on this a little bit too, the idea of if you're writing for a viola, write for a viola. Maybe. It's yeah. So and if you really wished it was a violin, maybe write for a violin instead.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to write for a highlight voice that has a lot of like, light articulation available, write for a highlight voice that has a lot of light articulation available. If you want to write for somebody that's going to be like, wah, then write for a low mezzo.
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you both can maybe talk just a little bit more about creating space for enthusiasm, right? I think myself and I would maybe imagine some other people feel that it can you know, I want to be really enthusiastic about my music, and I want to have that kind of vitality and energy. But I think for me, at least, between just like the day to day like trials of being a human who has to work and find a way to pay my rent and my tuition and things like that, and then also the some of the maybe uh, expectations of going to school for classical music and kind of all the burdens that come with the canon, etc. I'm curious if you two have felt maybe especially, but not only at the beginning of your kind of SpacePants career, those kinds of pressures and burdens, and how you um, try to not let them get in the way of your creating enthusiasm. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
It's a great question.
It's a great question. It makes a lot of
I think the first thing I would say is that it's kind of generating and sharing, honest enthusiasm is kind of a little bit of a fake it till you make it thing, in the sense that like you feel it, but it's I mean, we both trained in the classical world, and we have really struggled. So SpacePants is our place
Baggage.
where we're allowed
Lots
with
of
so
it.
much baggage. SpacePants, we're like leaving that baggage at the door, and not we're not engaging with that, basically. Like, we're making what we make, and we are not engaging with what it is in terms of someone sort of judging whether or not we're serious enough or whatever that is. But we've also both been in the industry for a pretty long time, so we've really dealt with those struggles in other spaces. And kind of SpacePants is only about a year and 4 months old as an official duo, so pretty new in terms of our. And the other thing is, showing enthusiasm for other people's work first feels much easier to me, and so that you don't feel like you're doing self-promotion, for example, which self-promotion is different from enthusiasm, and that's something that we feel very pressured as artists to do. Instead, like, watching your own work and pointing at what you get excited about, and then again, like, following that yes, and when you feel that way, it's easier to stand behind what you've done. And it's a little bit easier to not feel like the feedback that you're getting is crushing your dear artistic soul, which we feel a lot in classical training.
Yeah. I would also just add, along the lines of being enthusiastic about other people's work, that, finding that type of music that you just love to listen to, or other art forms, just cultivating that sense of enthusiasm. I think this is true with a lot of emotions within ourselves, probably any emotion within ourselves. We also, once you learn how to feel enthusiastic, it's like easier to get back there. And we train ourselves, we're like creating that neural pathway to like be enthusiastic about things. So I mentioned this briefly another day, that like I'm obsessed with Hindemith. I mean, he wrote amazing viola music, and I'm getting ready to I'm recording the complete viola sonatas, because he wrote 7 for viola, and that's pretty much a passion project for me. But that generates so much enthusiasm in myself, because I love Hindemith so much, and talk about, it's in another part of my apartment. My student of mine made me a mug. Talk about the enthusiasm thing, that says "You can't out Hindemith me," and it's an insane photo of me on it, and Hindemith's on the other side of the mug. But like, I've been generating that enthusiasm for Hindemith since undergrad, and I'm a few years out of undergrad, and so just finding those things you love. And also, like, I'll talk specifically, just one part of my career is that in my recording work, there's definitely an attitude of kind of acting like, oh, this is, whatever, this is fine, cool, and every time I show up at a recording studio, I'm recording for, I got to record for, what's something cool I record?
Picard.
I record for both of the Star Trek series that are on right now, Picard and Star Trek Discovery, and like, Star Trek? Patrick Stewart? I'm like sitting there like, and like, I've just accepted that I'm gonna be a little more excited about things than some people are, and it's also just I think that I have that my enthusiasm outside of school and outside of maybe my direct colleagues, so other violists, but within the industry or within other things, that enthusiasm is really seen as a positive asset, and people are like, oh, she's really positive, and she's really, and that gets me hired for things. And so just there's an emotional part to it and sort of a practical part to it, but let's focus on the emotional part. Like, yeah.
One other thing is like, one other thing is positivity generally. So, and I don't mean false positivity. When Diana and I walk off the stage and we did whatever we did, and we don't always know what's going to happen, there has never been a time when either of us has said to each other like, oh, that one improv was a little bit, It's always, what was the thing that was the most awesome? And so, days later, maybe we'll start to like take it apart, but never in the moment do we address anything that's like sort of negative. We find the things we love and so I always feel like safe. And that's a really, so just cultivating like honest positivity, that doesn't have to be like, can allow. Yeah.
Not that. And Hayden's asked, do you feel our own enthusiasm helps give other people social permission to embrace their own? Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
That's a great question.
People at our concerts are like wearing tinfoil hats, singing along. I mean, like in LA, where maybe it's not necessarily easy to get the crowd like going. But yeah, the more you are honest about it, the more other people come to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Great question.
I was wondering if you had any thoughts on continuing to collaborate with people and like collaborating with people while you disagree with them, or while like you have an artistic disagreement, or like something comes up between that, and how you work like through or past that.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's definitely a lot of, it certainly depends on how serious of a disagreement we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like if it's like sort of a fundamental personal belief thing, or if it's a musical issue, there's so many ways to navigate that, from just continuing to explore both people's ideas as fully as possible. And that's something that is really easy when we're collaborating, especially actually the longer term your collaboration is. It's really easy to treat that person not as well as your new friends. Like new friends were in our best behavior. When we've been working with somebody or have a relationship with somebody for longer, it's easier to be like sort of like low key, not so nice to our friends or our family or our collaborators. And so it's really important to be honest with ourselves. Are we truly trying this person's idea? Are we truly giving it the full, honest, whatever? Or are we like so fixated on our own idea of something that we're not creating the space for it? So then when we try it, it always sounds bad or comes off not successfully because we're not really even giving ourselves to it. But I definitely don't think there's one recipe for how to address this, other than just being radical honesty.
Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Please.
It's hard this online format is so weird.
Online is hard.
Another thing I would say about that is no matter how easy or difficult a collaboration or a gig situation or whatever it is might be, I've always found that, again, that like sort of following the yes thing, or like, I really liked it when you did X. Yes. When you like something that someone does, no matter if you didn't like 98% of what they did, when you tell them that you liked what you did like, it immediately creates open space for a conversation. So then you can be like, oh, do you think you could try that at that other place? This is really a great way to work with performers as composers. Like, I love it when a composer's like, I loved how you did that. Could you do that, in another spot? And then it gives me a positive reference point. So also creating positive reference points is super important. Compliment sandwich we have in
that.
Yeah,
this is
important.
Really, this is really communication style as well. Some people are not as sensitive to it as others, but I think best practices is to come from a place like that being really aware of your language when you're providing feedback. Because also, let's be real, we're making art. No matter how much you're like, oh, don't take the feedback personally, it's personal.
Yeah.
We're creating things, especially when it's music you've written or something like that. It's really personal. And so, yeah, finding ways to use positive wording doesn't mean you can't ask them to try something differently, but even telling somebody to yes, do something rather than don't do this. Don't do this. Rather, can you try shorter notes rather than can you not play so long? Just that flip of the language is really, really useful, and it is something, again, from personal experience, when if you get that kind of language, the negative version of that over and over again, it's very slowly steals your soul and can be really, really eat at you. And so and also a lot of people learn how to talk to others by how you're talking to them. So if I'm using positive language with you, they're going to be more likely to use positive language with me without even having to have a conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you can model how you want people to talk to you, hopefully they will bring that back at you. Yeah.
And this has been an incredible test case for Diana and I for this. We are in different cities.
Yeah.
And we have created an entire concert of music without ever being able to hear ourselves together.
We only cried a little bit, just like a little bit of
There was
crying.
only some crying, but there was never a time that I didn't feel supported. And there was never a time when I was like breaking down because we had to do a lot of crazy stuff that just isn't part of our normal repertoire. I never felt like there was any pressure on me to get better at this or like, it was always, and so we were able to do this and achieve it. And I feel like so positive and happy about everything that's happened. So it was a great, cause obviously we're all under a lot of pressure right now. So.
Right.
Cool. Anything else?
Anything else?
Oh, here's a following Hayden. Do you think the enthusiasm from the audiences have become part of the SpacePants performance or style? I think. I mean, it's not something that we're requiring, or like looking for specifically. It's a little bit more organic, but it is definitely part of the vibe when you come to a concert.
And we certainly I think we acknowledge that we can't control our audiences as much as anybody would like to be able to sometimes, but more that it's been a really positive part of our evaluation of how things are going and how successful they are is the feedback we get from seeing how the audience is reacting and in whether it's in one-on-one conversations or literally during the concert. I forget if Jen, if you wound up mentioning, but like along the lines of all this talking about enthusiasm, but the amount of energy and power we gained when we looked out on an audience of 50 people in tinfoil hats was one of the most amazing things ever. So, put a tinfoil hat making station out at your concert and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's we recommend it. So, yeah. Is there anything else anybody wants to touch on?
Cool. Be sure to there'll be a tinfoil hat making some sort of project. I think we can all get together and make our tinfoil hats to get ready for the concert at some point tomorrow. We'll leave that to the festival to schedule. Okay. And our concert's at 1 p.m. And there's 2 pieces that we wrote and 6 pieces that you all wrote, and we're looking so forward to it.
Yeah, and thanks for being so active in that. Like that's the thing we've loved about being on Zoom is this chat situation has made it's been so fun to interact with you all, and also in the mornings and everything. And please don't be a stranger and reach out to us or the aliens, and we're around. And
Thank you so much, Jennifer and Diana. We really appreciate it.
Of course,
Sure.
of course, yeah.
And everyone, remember that the concert has already been taped, so you can access that tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Charlotte New Music YouTube and Facebook page.
It's gonna be pretty cool.
See you there.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
All
Bye.
right, thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, you got the puppet back in.
Bye.
Okay, I'll say bye with the puppet too.